If you've spent the last few evenings scrolling through endless speaker sets, reading the same vague great sound blurbs, and still feel that knot of uncertainty about which system will actually fill your living room without breaking the bank, this review is here to cut through the noise. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've been down the rabbit hole of home theater research, comparing floor-standing pairs, wireless modules, and a slew of subwoofer options, and I'm going to walk you through why the Klipsch Reference 5.1 home theater pack might finally be the answer you've been hunting for. First off, let's talk about the situation most of us find ourselves in. You've got a decent TV, maybe a 4K OLED, and you're ready to upgrade the audio. The big question is whether you need a full 5.1 system or if a soundbar will do. The main risk of going the full system route is ending up with a collection of speakers that look great on paper but end up feeling like a puzzle you can't solve in a typical apartment or small den. The Klipsch pack tries to solve that by delivering everything you need out of the box: 2 floor-standing speakers, a center channel, a bookshelf pair for rear surrounds, and a 400-watt subwoofer. That's a lot of hardware, but the real test is how easy it is to fit and actually use in a lived-in space. The first thing I noticed when the box arrived was how straightforward the setup really was. The floor-standing R620F units come with pre-wired binding posts, so you just need a decent receiver with speaker outputs and you're ready to go. The center speaker, the R52C, slots nicely beneath a wall-mounted TV or on a low console without demanding a huge footprint. The rear bookshelf speakers, the -41M, are light enough to sit on a shelf or be wall-mounted, which is a blessing if your room isn't a full-size home theater. And the subwoofer, the R12SW, has its own low-pass crossover knob, so you can dial in the bass to match the room's acoustics without digging through a menu on a receiver. Now, who should actually consider this package? If you're a movie enthusiast who wants that cinematic boom for action sequences and a clear dialogue anchor for drama, the 5.1 layout is a solid choice. The 2 floor standers provide a wide, immersive front stage, while the center channel handles on-screen speech with enough clarity that you won't have to keep raising the volume during a quiet conversation. The rear speakers give you that surround effect without the need for elaborate Dolby Atmos ceiling modules. For gamers, the same layout delivers positional cues that can give you a subtle edge, especially in shooters where you need to hear footsteps from behind. And because the pack includes a dedicated sub, you'll feel the low-end rumble in racing games without needing to boost the bass on your TV. On the flip side, if your primary use is casual TV watching in a small apartment, you might be buying more than you need. A single soundbar with a wireless sub can deliver a satisfying experience without the need to run speaker wires to each corner of the room. Likewise, if you're an audiophile who already has a high-end receiver and is particular about matching speaker sensitivities and impedance across the board, the Klipsch set's 96 dB sensitivity could be too forward for a very quiet listening environment, leading you to crank down the amp and risk losing some of that dynamic punch. Let's get into the practical strengths that show up once the system is actually running. The Tractrix horn technology built into the tweeters gives a crisp, forward-projecting high end, which means dialogue stays intelligible even when the volume is turned down for late-night viewing. I tested this by watching a subtitled foreign film at a modest level, and the subtitles matched the spoken words without any muddiness, something that many lower-priced systems struggle with. The spun copper IMG woofers in the floor standers and the subwoofer create a deep, controlled bass that's more felt than rattling, which is useful if you have neighbors above you. In practice, the sub can be set to a low crossover point, so it handles the thunderous explosions in a superhero movie while leaving the floor standers free to manage mid-range instruments and vocal tracks. The biggest hidden trade-off is the room size requirement. The floor-standing speakers are roughly 3 feet tall and need enough space to stand without being blocked by furniture. If you try to push them against a wall, the bass can become overly boomy because of boundary reinforcement. I placed one of the units a few inches off the wall and used the built-in rear firing port to let the sound breathe. The difference was noticeable. The bass became tighter, and the overall imaging sharpened. That small adjustment is easy, but it's a nuance that a first-time 5.1 buyer might overlook and then blame on the speakers. Another practical concern is cable management. The kit does include speaker wire and the sub's power cable, but you'll still need to route the wires from the receiver to the rear.